Struggling to get your website design?
Okay, are we live? No, we don't. I think you need to turn off the volume for your system because I can hear my own voice. Oh, it was my own browser. Sorry, nothing. 4.
Hello, hello people. I'm trying to also connect Instagram before actually starting to talk because it's important to go live both on Instagram and YouTube. Trying to connect it. Hello. Hello Tapan. Hello Dariolus. Hello Pedro. Hi everyone. What's up? Okay, I think we are also live on Instagram.
Okay, great.
Cool. Just one more second. I need to check if Instagram is working or no. Seems like it is working. Let's make.
Yeah, it's working.
Because I don't see myself moving on Instagram. It looks like I'm frozen. Does it actually working or? I see
I
myself.
think
It's
it's
frozen,
a
right?
no, it's not frozen. I think you're just it's a time lag.
Okay. All right. Okay. Hello everyone. Hello Mickey Man. Hello people. So today we have the amazing Hadi Karimi, the great portrait artist that probably many of you guys know him. We're gonna have some questions that I already prepared to ask him, but I'm also going to read the comments and answer you guys' questions. So for the beginning, I wanted to ask you, Hadi, how did you actually start? And when did you start? How did you start? Talk about your background and all the necessary thing for the beginning that you think we all might be curious to know.
Okay, sure. Um, I don't know if you mean where I started as an 3D artist, it was 2016, 2017. But if you're curious before that, what I was doing, I used to be a graphic designer and a digital painter, and I used to do everything, from designing logos to editing videos and making websites and applications, etc. And one of the things that I used to do, and it was basically a transition from my 2D career to my 3D,
Mm-hmm.
was uh, basically making music videos and editing, making teasers for music albums and singers. And I remember during one of those, I'm trying to find if I can find any pictures or videos. Probably not. But I remember during one of those music videos
Mm-hmm.
I was making, I decided for some reason, I don't remember why, maybe it was a suggestion from the singer, or it was my own creativity, but I decided to include a 3D model of that singer in the music video. But because I had no idea basically how to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and my software that I used to make um, video clips basically was After Effects. And After Effects has this plugin called Element 3D, which is not a 3D software, it's just a plugin, a very basic and rudimentary plugin that gives you, you can import, 3D objects, you can uh, do some trickery inside your, because
Mm-hmm.
After Effects is basically a 2D software. I mean, it has some 3D tools and capabilities, but basically it's a 2D software. But Element 3D um, adds this ability to After Effects that you can add 3D objects, and I decided to try it. And but the main challenge was adding the singer, the 3D model of the singer to the clip itself.
That's
But
interesting. I have a
y-
question. I cannot wait. Who's the singer? I'm very
uh,
curious to know. So it
it's
yeah.
she wasn't a famous singer. She was just
Okay.
she was starting out.
Okay. So that was your first project of portraits.
Um, Portraits. No, first project that I decided to
Okay.
make a 3D model of a real
Mm-hmm.
person.
Okay. Okay.
But I used to do portraits, 2D
Mm-hmm.
portraits, and yeah, paintings and etc. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it was my first project that I decided and tried to actually include a 3D model of a
Right.
real person. And that was basically a an impossible challenge because I had no idea how to do it. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
found some basic tutorials. I didn't even know what to search for. I just googled how to make a 3D model of a face,
Right.
and there was this. I don't remember the name of this software. It was FaceGen, if I'm not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, it's a very basic software that you give it two different shots, one from front view and one profile, and then it
Mm-hmm.
roughly gives you a 3D perspective and 3D model of that face, which is not accurate at all. It's just basically it just projects those
Mm-hmm.
pictures on top of the model. But I mean, for me back then in 2016, which I had no background in 3D, was like magic. So I added successfully added the 3D model into the clip,
Mm-hmm.
but it didn't look great. I knew something was missing. I mean, it looked like the person, but it wasn't great. It was just a very static model without any movement, animation, without any. It looked very rough. So I searched further, and
Mm-hmm.
I I remember that Element 3D has a bridge with Cinema 4D, and that's basically the main reason that I decided to transition from After Effects completely to Cinema 4D.
Mm-hmm.
Cinema 4D is basically primarily used for motion graphics. It's not. something. It's not a first choice when it comes to character design and character animation. I mean, you can do character design.
Mm-hmm.
It's not impossible, but it's not the first choice. It's not comparable to a software like Maya, for example. But the advantage that Cinema 4D has, it's really easy to learn, and it's for someone who doesn't have any 3D background, it's really easy to learn. And basically, after a couple of days and after a week of watching tutorials, I learned how to basically use the Cinema 4D different tools, different character tools, modeling, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And so I imported that model that I projected in that FaceGen program inside Cinema 4D, and I learned more and more. I became more and more curious,
All right.
and the the project that mm, first initially was planned to be to be made in a couple of weeks took months, maybe 6 months, because I was just
Right.
learning. I was just exploring, and I appreciate that the singer was patient enough. So that was the I think that was a point that
You
and
decided to.
I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
serious first. It was just it was more of a I can't say a hobby, but it was just it was a curiosity. It was something that I was exploring. I wasn't sure that I wanted to completely transfer from 2D to 3D yet.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't confident enough. But as I learned more and more, uh, and I made some, let me see if I can find it, some characters. I mean, I moved on from that project. That project was done, and but
Mm-hmm.
the curiosity lingered on, and I was still
Right.
exploring if I can push it further, if I can push my skills further and see.
Then
Because I used
this
to
was
see these
how many years ago?
20 2016 or 17.
Wow, that's a long time ago, actually. And then, so you did this one, and then when was the time that you actually decided to, okay, I really want to start exploring and I want to, make a portrait? And which one was it? Because I think it's interesting. Do you still have it on your portfolio or you never even posted it?
Uh, I think I've archived some of the posts. Let me see if I can bring it
Mm-hmm.
back temporarily to show you. But um, yeah,
Because
there
I'm,
was some
yeah.
uh, 3D characters of 3D likenesses of celebrities that I posted, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't immediately receive an amazing feedback. It was
Because I
something
see
that
one of the first portraits that you posted on Artist Station is Michael Jackson, Eminem. I don't
oh
know
no,
too a
yeah,
lot.
and those are not the first. I mean, there
Mm-hmm.
were prior to that there were some artworks
Okay.
that I posted, but um, I deleted because
Mm-hmm.
uh, I wasn't happy.
That's right. So I did the same. I think all of us we do the same. Once we are happy, we keep it, and once we are not happy, it's like I don't want it in my portfolio.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays I don't really see it the same way
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, making mistakes is part of your journey.
Exactly.
There is no reason to be embarrassed. But when you're starting out, it's a different mindset. You're
Yeah, that's right.
you're more vulnerable to negative feedback,
Mm-hmm.
so you have to be more careful. And also because you, for artists who don't have a big platform,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of risky to, show their mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I found the first clip.
All right, can you share it with me on Discord so I can play it? Or if you don't feel like you want to show it, we can just skip the question and move forward.
Sure. Me, give me a second.
Okay. That's actually interesting because I see that many people, like, really young people, are texting me on Instagram Artist Station or even on my website to, to ask me, okay, I am really interested to start, but I don't know how or where to start or which field is the best, if there is a future for me in sculpting or like in miniature industry, or maybe better to start to with the approach of going into game industry. But like, everyone is worried about their first steps, because I think it was the same for me. I mean, I was I was kind of a little badass because I didn't care too much about the result. I was just moving forward. I was focused, like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I don't care about the feedback, but I know that it's important because, of course, you want to always have the best result in the shortest time. But sometimes it's impossible. As you said, mistakes are a part of the journey. So you always need to make mistakes to to become better in anything, not only just art, not only in in this field that we are working with 3D. Did you already share
Yeah,
it?
I think that starting something is the most important part because
Mm-hmm.
if you never start, you don't know how far you can go, and you don't have to be afraid of making mistakes. Making mistakes is
Exactly.
just an inevitable part of the process.
Exactly.
Okay, so this is where you, do you
Okay, so
can you
you're,
show my screen?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought you shared it. Right. Yeah, we see it.
Okay, so this is
Mm-hmm.
yeah, oh, it's 2018, so it's not as so maybe this is oh this is Cinema 4D. So this is after I
Okay.
transitioned from After Effects
Mm-hmm.
and Element 3D to Cinema 4D. So this was I think it was about a year after I
Mm-hmm.
discovered 3D. So so that's why it's 2018. So yeah, this is basically me trying to figure out how to animate or
Mm-hmm.
just use Cinema 4D. And before that, I used to do 2D portraits. This is digital painting from
Mm-hmm.
2015.
Those are actually good. Like,
Yeah,
you
I had a
you
very
don't
specific
have,
style.
yeah, you don't have them on your portfolio, right?
No, because it's
Mm.
useless. I mean, it doesn't represent what I do.
Yeah, but yeah, that's right.
So this is the very first one, which is 2015,
Mm-hmm.
and this is when I just this was my
Mm-hmm.
my old PC, just a
Mm-hmm.
15-inch monitor
Mm-hmm.
with a
I'm still using my old Wacom, by the way. The tiny, small, old Wacom. I think sometimes
mm,
it's good. It's reminding me of those days that I started as a kid. Not like a kid,
yeah,
but
it's
like I was like a kid in the industry. I didn't know what is going on. I started because I was really passionate about it, and I still keep this Wacom because it's just nice. It's kind of bittersweet.
yeah, what's funny is that I didn't really notice any significant change when I
Mm-hmm.
bought my Wacom. I mean, it was just a fancier pen I use,
Mm-hmm.
but it does the same thing. I mean, people ask me what pen you use,
Yeah.
and if they ask me if it's important to to buy the toppest and most
Mm-hmm.
expensive model? And my answer is always no, it doesn't really matter. Just use whatever you can.
That's right.
And this is my first, basically first 3D project, which it was
Mm-hmm.
for the singer that I made.
Mm-hmm.
It was also from 2018, but I started working a year prior. So I started 2017, and then
Mm-hmm.
um, it was released in 2018.
Mm-hmm. That looks
It's not,
cool. I
yeah,
mean,
it's not
it
as
was,
bad
yeah.
as
No, no, no.
it's
I
not
mean,
really as
for the time, like 2018, I think this is really cool. Like, I mean, it could be better if it was now, but for 2018, I think it's really cool.
yeah. I mean, I didn't have any idea what I was doing. It was just a
Mm-hmm.
more of an experiment
Mm-hmm.
rather than something serious.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started working on faces of celebrities,
Okay.
which this is for me, it started to blow up, and I started getting more feedback, and my work started getting noticed. My
Mm-hmm.
platform was expanding,
Mm-hmm.
and then it sparked the idea that maybe I can fully transition from my previous style to
Mm-hmm.
3D. And it was just, I wasn't only working on faces. I was sometimes I used to do just, this.
The designs that you make in, but all in
Mm,
3D, right? This is 3D.
yeah, it's all 3D. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, this is the from this point on, everything is
Mm-hmm.
3D.
Okay.
And I had some concepts in mind
Mm-hmm.
that I used to think it was cool, but
No, it's cool.
honestly,
Actually, I was thinking that, oh, you're very creative because we all know you as this, portrait artist who is doing realistic portraits, like likeness of, celebrities. But yeah, look, you have many creative stuff. I mean, yeah, they're old, but I mean, we all know that you're like only doing likeness, but this is like, even I that I know you already, I didn't know that you have this stuff. Like, it's interesting.
yeah, mm, yeah.
Oh,
Basically, I was just
okay.
exploring to see what I even wanted to
Mm-hmm.
do. I wasn't sure. Um, I still wasn't sure if
Mm-hmm.
making characters, making photorealistic characters of celebrities was something that
Mm-hmm.
could be a reliable source of revenue. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were so many great artists already in
Mm-hmm.
the industry.
Who inspired you? I'm
Hmm,
curious.
who inspired me? I think,
Like the artist that inspired you when you started.
yeah, there were so many. Chris Costa, there was
Mm-hmm.
Ian Spriggs, and
Mm-hmm.
there was some funny thing is that there were some artworks that used to inspire me,
Yeah.
but I didn't even know the artist. It just, I mean, when I look at an artwork,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really. The first question that comes to my mind is not who made it. It
Mm-hmm.
just is how he or she made it. That's the question that comes to my mind. So sometimes
Mm-hmm.
when I look at an inspiring
Mm-hmm.
artwork, I don't even know. I don't even remember if I
Mm-hmm.
look back who made it. I mean, some
Wow.
artists some artists
Interesting.
have a style. Some artists have a style,
Mm-hmm.
so it's easier to recognize. But
Mm-hmm. You're not that curious to know who's the artist behind this beautiful artwork. Like
Yeah, yeah. I
you're
mean,
more curious about knowing how he or she made it.
yes, exactly. And
That's great.
this this was the Bjork portrait that I
Mm-hmm.
made in 2019. So we are 1 year into my first
Okay.
year as a
Mm-hmm.
3D artist. My first year of just just learning, and I didn't even make any money for the first couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I was just exploring. I had different. My job was completely different from art. I used to design websites and applications. That was my
Mm-hmm.
source of income. But I didn't make any money for the first maybe even 3 or 4 years of
Mm-hmm.
being a 3D artist. And yeah, this was the first portrait of Bjork that I made was the first time that my artwork went beyond
Mm-hmm.
my own platform and different uh, curators and websites shared it
Mm-hmm.
and featured it. And after that, I think this was probably my zenith of my career or golden age
Mm-hmm.
of my career that everything that I used to post
Mm-hmm.
used to go viral. I mean, viral in my own scale, not crazy viral, but for me it was something unprecedented. That
Mm-hmm.
I mean, before this, let me show you. Before this, I used to get only maybe 500, 600
Mm-hmm.
likes, and then after that, it blew up to 3,000,
3,000.
4,000, five
Mm-hmm.
thousand, and that
And
was the
then,
point that I said to myself, yeah, maybe this is something
yeah. You
that
see,
can
yeah,
be taken seriously.
yeah, sometimes when we get validation from others, it's like, we get pursued to like, yeah, yeah, good job, you can do it, keep doing it. It's also nice to consider that we need, nice comments sometimes, and it's nice to realize that okay, if I am posting something like it can be 2D or 3D artwork and it's not getting enough likes and comments, I don't get good feedback as I'm expecting to get, maybe I'm not making good content. Maybe I should focus on what is wrong with it, that it's been, for example, a year I'm posting but there's no progress in it. Maybe you should look at it from this point of view, instead of saying that, oh no, I'm just not getting enough comments, enough likes, or putting the blame on algorithm, like, oh no, I don't know why my work is not getting viral. Because we all need to get that good job thing from others to be able to
Mhm.
feel like, oh yeah, we are on the right path. It helps.
Yeah, it does. But yeah, I think that was probably the biggest push that I could take,
Mm-hmm.
and it helped me to make a serious decision to just
Mm-hmm.
see this as my main job, as something that I could rely on as a source of income and make a living out of it.
Okay.
And this, so Bjork, this one, Adele, Eminem,
Mm-hmm.
these are made in Cinema 4D.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was the last one. The Amy Winehouse model was the
Mm-hmm.
last model that I made in Cinema 4D. And then in 2019, August,
Mm-hmm.
I transitioned to Maya. This
Mm-hmm.
is the first model that I made in Maya, but
Mm-hmm.
uh, it was so different to what I was used to. But because everybody was using Maya, and it was basically, I was one of the very few artists used to make photorealistic
Mm-hmm.
renders of humans inside Cinema 4D. Where Cinema
Mm-hmm.
4D is primarily used for motion graphics. So, because the commissions that I used to take from clients were all in Maya or Unreal Engine,
Mm-hmm.
and still nobody asked for Cinema 4D. So I decided to just transition from Cinema 4D to Maya.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, it was really torturous because Cinema 4D is really easy and intuitive. It's something that you can easily get used to. But Maya is not the same. Maya doesn't hold your hand. It's something that you have to try to get used to. You have to, it doesn't immediately
Yeah.
uh, become, you don't immediately get accustomed to it, to
Mm-hmm.
the new UI or the new shortcuts. Everything is so different. But I'm happy that I didn't give up because it was a really good decision
Mm-hmm.
that I made.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Cinema 4D is easy to use, but it doesn't provide the same tools that Maya does. Maya has XGen, which is
Mm-hmm.
really amazing for hair grooming. It has amazing animation tools. It has amazing support for different
And Arnold.
render engines. I mean, Arnold Cinema 4D also has Arnold, but
Mm-hmm.
uh, I think apart from the commissions and clients, what the clients wanted,
Mm-hmm.
the main reason that I switched to Maya was the hair system. XGen was just,
Yeah.
it's not even a competition when it comes to XGen versus Cinema 4D hair system. Cinema 4D hair system is so outdated,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't even think of, I can't even imagine going
Going
back
back.
to,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I also
So
love
yeah, that's
X-Gen.
basically, I talked too much. I think that's enough history.
No, that was very interesting, actually. So, another question is that did you start always modeling in ZBrush or you used other softwares for modeling portraits? Like for sculpting, I mean.
Sculpting.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think before I started working with ZBrush, I used to do everything inside Cinema 4D. So
Mm,
even the
okay.
sculpting I used to do in Cinema 4D, and
Mm-hmm.
it was torture because Cinema 4D's sculpting tools are not comparable to what ZBrush can offer.
Mm-hmm.
But ZBrush, you know this, that ZBrush is so hard to get used to. It has such a
Yeah.
unique UI, and it's so different from anything had ever used to that point.
Mm-hmm.
It
So it has to
took
be a
me,
big change from Cinema 4D to learning both ZBrush and Maya.
yeah, I first learned ZBrush and then
Maya.
Maya.
And how is your transition from sculpting in ZBrush and then taking it to into Maya and do the texturing and rendering? Do you find it easy? Do you find it difficult? What are the challenges?
Um, the challenges, the biggest challenge is probably the camera because
Mm-hmm.
ZBrush is not a 3D software, it's a 2.5D software, and it doesn't give you a real 3D camera. It just tries its best
Mm-hmm.
to simulate a 3D camera, but it fails because the perspective is distorted. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you can use the perspective and angle of view to try to get close to a real life camera, but uh, it's not it's not enough. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
in Maya, at first I used to just do all the likeness sculpting inside ZBrush,
Mm-hmm.
but because I didn't understand photography and different, um, you know, focal length, different characteristics of cameras, physical properties of cameras, and
Mm-hmm.
then I was just I used to struggle because I mean I don't know if you've come to this.
I think I know what you mean. It's like the perspective is different from ZBrush compared to Maya. So ZBrush can give you some result that is not actually real, because it happens to me sometimes when I sculpt in ZBrush, and then when I print it out, it turns out completely different, or it turns out like, I think I mean, after a few years of sculpting, I finally realized what I should do to avoid those problems, because it's like I got used to it. It's like now I know how it's actually working with the perspective.
Mhm.
I think it's the same
Yeah,
thing that you're talking about.
yeah. It's let me just show you with an example.
We are seeing only Maya now. By the way, guys, we're gonna respond some questions, so stay until I finish my questions, and then you can write your questions on the comments. I will read it for Hadi, and we'll see his response. We already have a few comments on YouTube.
Okay, let me see if I can.
Yep. So we are in
I
ZBrush.
started the exact same way, just couldn't go beyond face gen and DAS 3D and shading and Octane. Yeah, exactly. I used to also use DAS 3D, but it's not a serious software. It's just something for hobbyists. So that's the point that a lot of people get stuck on, because that's the point that you have to decide whether you want to be a professional artist or just stay a hobbyist.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, so this is the difference.
Yep.
That it's the exact same reference inside ZBrush
Mm-hmm.
and Maya.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is the exact same reference. You can see that I'm using the angle of view 30 for this reference, but it doesn't exactly match up. I mean, especially as you get further from the center,
Mm-hmm.
because the distortion, the view gets distorted. The
Mm-hmm.
photo was taken with a real camera. It's a real photo. So as you get further from the center of view, which is the nose, the eyes, the mouth, it gets more distorted. And that's where ZBrush gets tricky, because the camera is not a real camera, real 3D camera. So you can't simulate the same distortion
Mm-hmm.
in ZBrush.
That's
But
right.
in Maya, it's easier
Mm-hmm.
to. I mean, it doesn't match up here either, but I think it's because of the focal length. You can say here it's easier to
Mm-hmm.
see what's going on, because the Maya, uh, the camera system in Maya is a real 3D camera system, so it's easier to
Mm-hmm.
stimulate that distortion and get more accurate result. So I think the to go back to your question, the
Mm-hmm.
biggest challenge when transitioning from ZBrush to Maya, exporting and importing the model from ZBrush to Maya, I think the biggest one is just trying to match up with different references in
Mm-hmm.
both, and to decide whether or not which one is accurate. And you have to make some um, you have to compromise accuracy at some point, because it's not really possible to get
Mm-hmm.
100% accurate
Mm-hmm.
result in 3D likeness sculpting. Just doing your best. But yeah, I think that's matching up with different reference photos is the biggest challenge.
Because I also remember one of the tricks that you taught me
Mm,
was, because, with the real camera, the focal length is different. So you always have to, change the focal length inside Maya to get the best result with each photo.
mhm.
Because sometimes it's different when you're trying to match the photos with the model. Is that right,
Yeah, yeah,
or I remember incorrectly?
yeah, exactly. I mean, you have to know photography to some degree the to understand what you're looking
Mm-hmm.
at. Let me show you. I mean, this is a photo. These are two photos of the same person, but
Mm-hmm.
one of them has a very wide
True.
focal length, which is probably
Mm-hmm.
taken with a phone, but this
Mm-hmm.
one looks more flat. So
Mm-hmm.
you can use the same camera in any software, even in ZBrush,
Mm-hmm.
to match your model with both reference photos. You have to know
Right.
uh, if the photo is looking flat, then it's probably taken with a long lens. So you have
Mm-hmm.
to adjust your focal length to higher focal length. And if it's taken with a phone,
Mm-hmm.
smartphones usually have a very wide lenses, very uh, yeah, wide lenses.
Mm-hmm.
So the focal length has to be between 10 to 50 usually.
Do you usually do this inside ZBrush or Maya or both?
Um, so I think, talking from experience, if
Mm-hmm.
you're working with a reference photo which was taken with a wide lens,
Mm-hmm.
for example, smartphone, it's probably best if you don't use it in ZBrush, because ZBrush doesn't really work great with wider lenses. You can see
Mm-hmm.
that the distortion is crazy here,
Yeah, right.
and so I mean, beyond a certain point, it's probably
Mm-hmm.
best if you just don't use that reference
Mm-hmm.
for, at least for proportion. You can use a reference for, skin wrinkles, for painting,
Mm-hmm.
but for likeness sculpting, it's probably best to use flat reference photos.
Okay, another question. How many photos do you need for doing a likeness?
As many as you can. Let me show you one of the folder. I mean,
Okay.
this is the folder that I I used for the
Mm-hmm.
Eminem likeness.
Mm-hmm.
How many are they?
So,
143. And there are also different
mm-hmm.
subfolders inside the folder. So if
That's
you
a lot.
value accuracy, you
Mm-hmm.
just have to use as many references as you can. and this is the Pacula Lucia that I've been working on my live workshop. It's also the
Mm-hmm.
same. Not that I use all every single one of them, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at least you have to reference your model from different angles, from side,
Mm-hmm.
from front,
Yeah,
from
actually,
top, bottom.
mm-hmm. I was thinking, for example, for the front view or for the side view, do you use like, for example, three, five different pictures? And I think this is challenging because I also tried doing likeness, and the most challenging part is that you make it like matching with one photo with all the consideration of focal length and camera and inside
Mhm.
Maya, inside ZBrush, and then you try to match it with the other one, it doesn't match. Then you try to
Yeah,
match with both, and then when you try with the third one, it doesn't match.
yeah.
So how do you handle this challenge?
So, I mean, there are two different types of likeness modelings.
Mm-hmm.
First one is you get commissioned or you just do the photo session yourself if you're a photographer. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, some 3D likeness modelers, I think Ian Spriggs does the photo sessions himself. So every subject that he works on, he does uh, a complete photo session from different camera angles,
Mm-hmm.
which, I mean, that's the ideal situation. But when you're working on a likeness of someone you don't have physically access to, so some celebrity, uh,
Mm-hmm.
maybe someone who, a historical figure who doesn't even, who's not even alive anymore. So you just have to use whatever you have. You just have to
Mm-hmm.
do your best um,
To have the best result.
to match up with different
Mm-hmm.
reference photos. And as I said, at some point you have to make compromises because a 3D model can't be a complete 100% accurate
Mm-hmm.
representation of a face.
That's right.
But uh, to know where to make those compromises and to know where to insist of accuracy, I think that just comes with experience. You just,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've worked on so many different likenesses, maybe even more than 100,
Mm-hmm.
that at this point it's just muscle memory. Just I just look at the reference. I know this is not a good reference. Just skip it,
Right.
and I match my model with a reference, and somewhere doesn't match up. So maybe I don't immediately try to edit the model. I just wait for more confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the things that are not really easy to teach someone because it's hard to articulate. I mean, how are you
It's more
supposed
of
to,
experience, right?
yeah, how are you supposed to teach someone that, hey, I mean, for every single reference is a different story. So it's not something that, it's not a formula that I can give you
Right.
that that works with every different situation. But yeah, if you have a photo session, if you have um, high quality reference photos from different angles, so basically it's a straightforward. You
Mm-hmm.
just match your model with different camera angles, and that's it. And you know the camera, you know what lens you use, so everything is straightforward. Not that it's easy, it's still challenging, but it's more straightforward. There are less um there are less, what's the word for it, um
Less challenging, maybe.
yeah, you can just plan out everything,
Mm-hmm.
but there are less surprises, let's say. But when you're working on a celebrity, for example, what I showed you for someone like
Right.
Eminem, I can't just call Eminem and uh, arrange a photo session with him. So I just have to look up different photos from Google Images and Pinterest and just guess which photo was taken with which camera.
Mm.
It's a game of just guessing and trial and error to some point that you're just doing your best
Yeah.
uh, to have a accurate result.
So let's try to ask a bit of Maya questions and lighting and texturing. Do you like? I know that you use Mari for texturing, and I know that you also use Substance Painter, right?
Yeah.
So, how do you find the transition between all these softwares? Where do you prefer to use Mari? Where do you prefer to use Substance? And the texturing and lighting questions.
Yes, I used to only use Substance Painter
Mm-hmm.
because it's easier to, for the same reason that I used to use Cinema 4. More intuitive, it's easier to get used to. Sorry, especially if you have used Photoshop,
Mm-hmm.
it's um, it's pretty straightforward. The UI is uh, close to Photoshop. So the
Mm-hmm.
layering system, the brushes, different brushes that you use, different tools, everything is just it's familiar to you. Mm,
Mm-hmm.
but there are some things that used to challenge me when I used to work with Substance Painter. It's a great software, nothing against it. But first of all, the layering system, as you add more layers, the project gets heavier and heavier. At some point,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you it gets so laggy that for every move that you make, or every um, change to the canvas, or even switching layers becomes painful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's a problem with coding, or because Substance Painter is a GPU based software, so it's great. But if you don't have enough VRAM, it's a nightmare. It gets so
Mm-hmm.
uh, unresponsive that you just can't handle. But also, it doesn't support 8K textures and 32 bits textures that you use to that you need for displacement maps.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the two main reasons that I switched from Substance Painter to Mari. I still use Substance Painter, but for rare cases, maybe if I want to paint some special tattoo or makeup or something. But
Mm-hmm.
nowadays, mainly just use Mari.
Mm-hmm.
Mari is kind of harder to get used to. It's especially the UI is outdated, and they don't really they don't put any effort into making this software looking modern.
Mm-hmm.
It looks so outdated. But it's a very powerful program. It can handle multiple layers of 8K painting without any problems. It supports 32-bit
Mm-hmm.
texturing. It supports any imaginable format that you can import or export. And it also has a node system, which is very important if you want to. I mean, the layering system is great. It works maybe 90% of the time. But if you want to make complex shaders, or if you want to go beyond, uh, do some, you know, trickery, it's great. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think the main reason was the 32-bit displacement map and 8K support, and also it's more responsive as your project gets
Mm-hmm.
heavier. It's uh, it's responsive. Very. It doesn't crash. I mean, it's really hard to crash Murray.
Mm-hmm.
It's responsive and it's reliable and it's great.
It's quite powerful, I see. I haven't
Yeah.
used it. I tried it a little bit, but I haven't used it like in any project yet. So, how about lighting? What are the challenges with, setup to set up the lighting for portraits? Because it's different. Portraits are different than the full figure.
Yeah. So lighting is so I basically inside Maya I have this group. I group all of my different lights into different
Mm-hmm.
subgroups, and each group is a different. Let me
Mm-hmm.
see if I can render. Each group is a different lighting setup. So if I want to switch from one lighting setup to another, I just hide.
Mm-hmm.
For example, this one, light set G is this lighting group. If I want to switch to another one, I just hide this, Control H and Shift H. I quickly switch to the next lighting group, and
So you
so
already have some setups that you test which one is going well with each portrait, right?
it's not just which one looks best. Also, it's testing the likeness to
Mm-hmm.
see if my likeness holds up in different lighting scenarios. Because a good likeness should
Mm.
look like the person you look like your subject in different,
Mm.
regardless of of the lighting. So that's really important.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I have a so I have this scene set up. Every
Mm-hmm.
new character that I want to work on, I just import my
Mm-hmm.
lighting setup to to that scene, so it's easier to just switch to different lightings.
So I see that you have different lightings. For example, there's one from the top, there's one from the corner, there's one from the side, and even from the below. Is this like
Yeah.
necessary for only checking the likeness, or this is just the way that you do it with every portrait that you're making?
So yeah, this is just part of look development that
Mm-hmm.
you have to. First of all, you have to make sure that your likeness holds up different
Mm-hmm.
lightings, and also you have to decide if you're a portrait artist. You have to decide whether or not, for example, you want to have straight flash lighting or
Mm-hmm.
you want to have a Renaissance lighting, more artistic,
Mm-hmm.
dynamic lighting. So you just have to test to see which one works best.
Mm-hmm.
And people ask me how you light your characters. I mean, it's not trickery. Just I'm just using any possible
Mm-hmm.
scenario to see which one works best.
Mm-hmm.
But even after I decide, I still keep my different lighting systems because I still want to test if the likeness works in different setups. For example,
Mm-hmm.
um, this down to top lighting. I mean, the character looks completely different in this scenario.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier to see. For example, this the forehead. If the forehead is exaggerated, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to get lost when you're working on a likeness sculpting and exaggerate different forms, especially for beginners. One of the more one of the mistakes that I see
Mm-hmm.
that more beginners make is that they exaggerate on different forms. For example, they see this wrinkle,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't take into account the lighting. They see this and they think, okay, this should be a really deep line. I have to
Mm-hmm.
I have to really exaggerate to make sure that this line is visible in my render. But
Mm-hmm.
they don't consider lighting, that the lighting plays an important role in
That's right.
making some forms look more prominent. So that's why I use one of the reasons that I use different lighting
Mm-hmm.
setups to make sure that all my forms looking natural and not exaggerated.
Mm. Does it also help you with the texturing? Like, do you think that different lighting helps you with the texturing, or it's just for the likeness, like sculpting?
For the texturing, uh, if you're using any light color other than white, for example, if you're using for this one is a warmer color, it's a bluish tone.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to make sure that for the for the texturing part, your light has to be just pure white because
Mm-hmm.
this bluish tone also has some effect on the skin tone. So it it affects your judgment. You think that
That's right.
the skin looks pale, so I have to go back to Marie and make it more saturated or add
Mm-hmm.
some color correction. But it's not the texture; it's just the lighting making the texture look more, making the skin look more pale. For example, if
Mm-hmm.
I switch to a warmer light, this is a warmer light. No, this one,
Mm-hmm.
not this. This one is a warmer light. You can see that the skin looking more yellowish, reddish. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why you need to before making the decision to switch to a warmer tone or a cool tone, you have to make sure that the texturing part is
Mm-hmm.
done, so it doesn't. Uh, you don't make mistakes based on the
Mm-hmm.
um, based on the tone of the environment.
Right. Do you also use HDRI, or you usually use just a setup of, lights around the portrait?
Yeah, I do use HDRIs too. For example,
Mm-hmm.
this system has
Mm-hmm.
the left part of the face is kind of darker, and there are some
Mm-hmm.
pure black angles. So in order to make it more illuminated, I just add an
Right.
HDRI, which helps with those. But you have to be careful because adding HDRI or adding any texture to your lighting, it drastically changes your rendering time. So it also adds so much noise. So make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you take that into consideration.
Someone is asking on Instagram, why not using Blender instead of Maya? Cycles isn't that good if you comparing it to Arnold.
Um, Cycle. I don't know. I haven't worked with Blender, and every time I go live, one of the questions that I get asked is that why don't you use Blender?
I
Uh,
think from my point of view, I think like both has their own, good sides and downsides, let's say. Because if you want to make stylized renders, me personally, I prefer you know uh, Blender. But if it's more realistic, I prefer Arnold and Maya. But this is just my response. I don't know what is your experience with cartoonish stylized renders in Maya, because I haven't seen you posting anything like that. If you ever experienced it, I would like to know from your point of view.
it's not just about different styles. It's about what the industry wants. So
Mm-hmm.
if, for example, if let's see, let's say that I just use Blender,
Mm-hmm.
but all my clients just ask for Maya, ask for Unreal Engine. I mean, it's more understandable if someone asks, why don't you use Unreal Engine? Because Unreal Engine nowadays, especially, is more
Mm.
so so prominent and it's used uh, in different studios. But I mean, Blender, nobody uses Blender. Maybe there are some studios, some smaller studios that use Blender for the projects, but it's
Now,
mostly
Blender
used
users
by
will attack us. No, who said that? I'm using Blender.
um, it's mostly used by students who just
Mhm,
experimenting, or I mean, there are professional artists, character artists that use Blender, but
mhm.
and I haven't used it, so I
You
don't
don't
want
have
to.
any comments on it. Right.
Yeah, but maybe if it was accepted
Mm-hmm.
widely in the industry, and someday my clients start asking me for me to set my projects inside Blender,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I change my mind. But and why don't I try? Because it takes time. I mean, you don't have all the time, so you just so you can make a decision,
Right.
learn a new software, or make a stronger portfolio, make a new character,
Mm-hmm.
learn what you know already,
Mm.
uh, expand your knowledge inside
Mm-hmm.
the software that you're already using. But I think for me at this point, learning Blender seems like a waste of time. Maybe just for a video on YouTube, it would be good,
Mm-hmm.
but beyond that, it feels
Mm-hmm.
like a waste of time.
That's right. So I think I'm done with the questions. I have just a few more, but I just want to remind you guys, if you have any questions, you can ask. Hadi is here. We have him here. He's gonna respond. Feel free to write it on Instagram or YouTube. Meanwhile, I'm gonna ask you a question. As I told you, I get many messages from people who want to start. Do you have anything to suggest to them, the ones that are interested but they're kind of lost? Because the field is really vast. You can see people who are great in game industry, in sculpting, collectibles, miniatures, and VFX. What do you suggest to those who are trying to decide what they want to do and they feel like they're lost and they don't know how to decide? Some people are asking, what is the future in gaming industry? Do you think in 5 years, if I invest on learning, I will be successful or not? I really don't know how to respond to this question, but I am curious to know what you're thinking in this matter.
Yeah, I mean, if even 2 or 3 years ago somebody asked me this question, it'd be easier to answer because
Mm-hmm.
uh, I think the most important part is just starting and gaining experience. Because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the industry is constantly changing, and nothing is stays the same. I mean, regardless of AI, even before AI, things used to change constantly, and you
That's
had
right.
to adapt
Mm. To the new
to
changes.
yeah, to different workflows.
Right.
But um, I don't know what AI is going to do in the next 5 years, and nobody has a crystal ball. But uh, probably at this point, I think AI has so much. It has a large um, margin of error, that it makes so
Mm-hmm.
many unpredictable mistakes that it's hard to imagine
Mm-hmm.
uh, replacing a. It's not production ready. It's hard to imagine that AI tools at this point replace more traditional digital workflows. Because the most important thing in to call a software or tool or anything production
Mm-hmm.
ready is predictability. You have to
Mm-hmm.
predict. the output. If I give this tool an input, I have to know every single pixel that it makes is predictable,
Mm-hmm.
because there, there are large investments. For example, video games, VFX projects.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no time for making mistakes, and there's no time for experimenting. So I think at this point, from just judging by the demos that I've seen,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's hard to imagine that AI going to completely replace
Mm-hmm.
CG artists, especially if you're more experienced. That's why I always insist on just gaining as much experience as you can, because even if, for example, even if a series decide to lay off, which is now happening, layoffs are now happening, but it's for economic reasons, not for AI. But
Right.
if, for example, in 5 years, if different studios start to lay off artists because AI is capable enough to handle everything, they're not going to fire everyone. They probably need some, at least 20-30% of the team to handle the projects. And they, if I was responsible for a studio, I would probably pick those with the most
Experts.
experience, with the most knowledge and experience. So
Mm,
that's why I always answer this question: just learn as much as you can, no matter, not if
mm,
even if you're not an artist, anything,
mm.
anything you're passionate about, just learn more and more, make mistakes and experience more, gain experience. And even if AI gets to that point that is going to replace, then you probably have a better chance at staying. But I mean, if AI gets to that point, gets so sophisticated that
Mm-hmm.
it's capable of replacing experienced and uh, you know more experienced experts, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's just limited to art and digital art, VFX. I think it goes beyond any profession,
Mm.
engineering, um, lawyers, doctors, everything, everyone, regardless of their profession, are at risk. So you might as well just do what you enjoy and do what you think you can be best at.
I love that response actually, because I agree 200%. I agree on this with you. Someone is asking, why did you stop doing Paco Live?
Yeah, because I was expecting a more positive feedback, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't. I mean, I as I
You were
at
expecting.
first I used
Mm-hmm.
to get maybe 2 or 3K views for every live, and
Mm-hmm.
then with each uh, with each live session, it drops another two 300 viewers. And at this point, if you look at my latest most recent live stream, only
Mm,
500 people watched. And I
mm,
mean, it's not that 500 people is nothing, but it gets so much time of my
mm-hmm.
daily work that you have to make a decision. You really want to
Mm,
dedicate so much time to going live every day for uh, maybe a couple of hundred people, but
mm,
or you want to, you know, make a cool artwork for a portfolio.
mm. That's right.
Maybe I get back, but at this point, it's pretty. The feedback has been pretty disheartening.
Mm. Someone is asking, not sure you have discussed about the type of computer, GPU, RAM, etc. If you have anything to tell us in this.
If you want to render with GPU, 100% go with NVIDIA GPUs.
Mm-hmm.
Don't waste your money on AMD or Intel GPUs, because I mean, maybe for gaming, there's a different discussion, but for professional use, for professional GPU rendering, NVIDIA is miles ahead from its competition. But for CPU, RAM, etc., I'm not a hardware expert, but you probably have to consult with someone more knowledgeable. But my own CPU is 12 700K Intel
Mm-hmm.
i7, and my GPU is 3090, and my RAM 128 gigabytes of VRAM, and it's handling everything just fine.
Great. I think there's another question on YouTube. Someone asked, did you start getting paid work just by constantly posting work? That's also
Getting
a
paid
good
by who?
question. By, like, for example, did you get your first commission by posting, or did you get your first commission by someone who's knowing you already and now, like, for example, there's a studio that already commissioned you for 2D, and now that you're doing 3D, they're commissioning you again. So how was it? How was your first client approach to
I
you?
think is asking if I got paid for posting work, like a sponsored work or something. No,
Oh,
I was just posting my personal project to make a stronger portfolio, and it worked. People
okay.
Clients have started reaching out to me, and no, I didn't. The clients that I had for my 2D projects
Mm-hmm.
were just um, it wasn't studios, which was some it was mostly personal commissions. But after I started posting my 3D renders, um, I started getting emails from different studios and different clients and some big names that I used
Mm-hmm.
to get emails from. And sometimes it was, uh, I mean, it happened so fast that it scared me because I felt like I wasn't ready. I was just exploring,
Mm.
and some of these biggest studios, big name studios that used to be my
Mm.
um,
Your
dream
dream,
places to
yeah.
work. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it was scary because I didn't know, am I ready? What if I
Yeah.
mess it up?
Yeah, I can imagine. So Albert is asking, Hadi, do you get tired of portraits?
Um,
I don't think so. Yeah, you do?
Not portraits, but sometimes it gets so. I mean, it's a tough question to ask because I don't get bored of portraits, of doing portraits.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I have a chance, I just sit down behind my desk and I start working on
Mm-hmm.
whether a new project on or a project that I was already working on. But sometimes I get bored of working on a specific portrait because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it takes so long that I
Mm.
just need something fresh. I need to work on something new.
Mm.
So it gets boring. I mean, it gets boring, but not portraits. No, I never get bored of portraits, but I get
Mm.
bored of a specific subjects and projects.
So, Omid Afarinzad wrote on Instagram, hey, I missed the camera part earlier, wondering how to match final likeness in ZBrush and Maya Arnold renderer. There is some form variation sorry, between the two despite having same camera setting. I think we already covered this. Do you have anything
Yeah,
new to
you can't replicate
mm,
the same camera view in both softwares because Maya is a real 3D software which provides real 3D camera, but ZBrush is not. ZBrush is a 2.5D
mm.
software.
And he wrote again, and Hadi, your YouTube live videos are so valuable for many. I hope you will
Mhm.
keep it up. We both
Yeah, me too.
hope.
I do too. I mean,
Yeah.
I get no, uh, I get some. I need some, some push, some positive feedback, some
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
something to push me. At this point, I'm not convinced that people really. I mean, they say this, but when you go live,
Yeah.
nobody shows up. So I don't really believe it.
Well, Hadi, I just get just a few likes. I think sometimes I get only 8 likes, and you get 100, you get 500, and you're still not happy with it. Come on. I mean,
Yeah, maybe I've become greedy.
yeah, I think you've become greedy actually, because well, I think it's important to get praised for what you're doing, but at the same time, I know that those 500 people who are watching, they really value your work. So please keep it up. We want to learn from you.
Yeah, I know that those who watch and those who support me
Yeah.
um, really do. But okay,
Yeah.
maybe I should.
Yeah. Well, I think okay, we have another question. And when you get bored of a specific project, do you switch to another project or face? Also, sending you a lot of love for your work. They're really beautiful and inspiring. See, I told you people love you.
When I get bored of a specific project, it depends. If it's a commission, then you
Mm-hmm.
don't have the luxury to switch to different because you have deadline that you have to meet. So mm, my approach is maybe if it's a full body character, um, I get some I have some break from working
Mm-hmm.
on the face and I start working on the body and the clothes
Mm-hmm.
to have some to refresh my perspective basically. But if it's a personal project, yes, I usually just switch because that's the reason I have so many unfinished portraits. If you look at my Instagram page and my second Instagram page, there's so many
Mm-hmm.
portraits that I've started and I just abandoned it.
Right. And Tushar just wrote, I think it's worth it if even one person can learn from your life and start earning or something. Yeah, that's also true.
uh yeah, but
Yeah, I mean, I
at
know you
at
have
what
to,
price?
yeah, you have to evaluate and see, what really matters to you because it's your time and your knowledge and your skills, so you have to decide for it. Well, I think I'm done with my questions. I think I already asked you. Oh no, there's one more question. I know the answer, but I'm going to ask with Senjan that we collaborated.
Mm.
Which was the challenges for you? And also, what was the biggest mistake that I made? Sculpting Senjan.
The challenge was because I use low poly
Mm-hmm.
models to render, and the biggest challenge was trans exporting, let's say, those details that you added in
Mm-hmm.
ZBrush to Maya, because when you export in a low poly model in your first subdivision level, you lose a lot of details. So
Mm-hmm.
the biggest challenge was um, mixing those details with the skin wrinkles and skin pores
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that everything pops out in the final render. And also the lighting, because I mean, prior to that, I used to just focus on the face.
Right.
And because it was the first, not the first, but one of the few renders that was a full body
Mm-hmm.
render, and the lighting was so different. You
Mm-hmm.
have to make sure that all parts of the body are properly lit.
Mm-hmm.
No, you don't have a darker spot. That
Mm-hmm.
was another challenge. And your mistakes, I think
This is my
one
favorite part.
thing that I can think of, not really paying enough attention to the topology
Yeah,
than
that's
making
what I
sure
do.
that, yeah, because when you're working on a base mesh
Mm-hmm.
and you have a topology symmetry,
Mm.
and you have to make sure that you don't lose that symmetry. You don't,
Mm.
for example, if you have a edge loop which is in the
Mm-hmm.
middle, let me see if I can find the edge loop. For example, this edge loop is, this one is in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to make sure that throughout the whole body, it stays in center.
Mm.
Otherwise, it makes texturing extremely difficult.
Mm.
And because you weren't used to working on base mesh and you were more used to working with Dynamesh for
Yeah.
prints, it was
I never
it was hard
actually,
to.
yeah, considered that this is gonna get textured and I need to be careful with the topology to not stretch it, to keep the symmetry. I didn't consider anything like that. And I remember that we did, ZRap twice, I think,
Yeah,
because the first version wasn't actually useful.
not that it wasn't useful, it was just it added another unnecessary step
Mm,
to to the whole process.
right. I think that's it. I don't have more questions. If you have any final thing to tell us or to the beginners, because I always focus on them when I actually host someone because I get many questions. I already asked you 2 times, so I'm not gonna
Mhm.
ask more. If you have anything to suggest or if you have any
Yeah,
final talk.
I think if you're a beginner, don't get too lost in what software you should use,
Mm-hmm.
what render engine is the best, what PC I should buy. Just have
Mm-hmm.
the cheapest, most basic pen PC, uh, Blender, which is free. You don't even have to pay for any software. Just use whatever you can. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter. What matters is that you start, you learn anatomy, you learn
Mm.
not photography, but camera lenses. You learn if you want to work on likeness, you know how camera lenses
Mm-hmm.
work. You understand lighting. You understand skin pores, skin characteristics, different
Mm-hmm.
ethnicities, how different ethnicities have uh, different depths to their faces, and yeah, there are so many things that you have to first figure out before you get to that point. Okay, what's the
Mm.
best software that you have to use? What's the best PC? These come, if you have uh, 10 steps, maybe these questions come in 6 or 7 steps. It
Mm.
doesn't come. It's not a type of question that you have to ask at the very beginning. So yeah, I think just don't get lost in asking all these questions. Let's start with
Mm.
whatever you can, with whatever tool you have, with
Mm.
the cheapest you, and yeah, just learn as much as you can.
Right. So I think we are done here. Thank you so much for your time and all the useful information. We really enjoyed. I mean, I enjoyed. I'm sure people also enjoyed. Also, both
Yeah, me
on
too.
YouTube and Instagram. And yeah, guys, I'm gonna have this again. next week on Monday, probably with someone else, or I'm gonna sculpt, but I will be live for sure. Next week, Monday evening, we are gonna meet again. So thank you for listening, for watching, and bye bye.